Ahoy and welcome back to my channel. I am Alison. I write as Alison May, Juliet Bell, and most recently I write romantic comedies as Sinclair. Here on YouTube I talk about all things writing and publishing related, and today we are talking about writing advice. Now, whether you go to writers groups, whether you look on social media, whether you look here on YouTube, whether you follow writers, writing tutors, there is no shortage of writing advice out there, and much of it is really helpful and some of it is really not. So today I am going to take you through my top 5 favourite pieces of writing advice. For me, alongside being a writer, I also tutor and mentor developing novelists, and I've been doing that for about 15 years now. I have past students who've gone on to be published by Avon, Headline, Head of Zeus, HQ, part of HarperCollins, and who've self-published successfully, who've secured agent representation, right across the board. So I like to think that I know a little bit what I'm talking about when it comes to writing, publishing, getting published, those sorts of things. So these are 5 pieces of advice that I really rate and that I know either I've found useful myself or people that I've worked with have found useful. These aren't all out of my own brain. There is so much writing advice out there that it is really hard to come up with anything that is brand new and original. So some of these have come out of other people's noggins, and some of these are just things I shout at students myself. So, number 1. This is a piece of craft advice. So this is my number 1 piece of advice that probably is the thing I say most often about the actual content of people's novels. If I'm reviewing a whole manuscript, or if I'm reviewing a synopsis, the single most common phrase that comes out of my mouth in those situations is this: go deeper, not wider. I first heard this from Sue Moorcroft, who is a brilliant women's fiction author, and when I heard this, it was one of those real light bulb on moments in my writing development. And it's a thing I still kind of mutter to myself under my breath when I'm trying to fix my own manuscripts, or when I'm trying to write a scene that isn't really engaging me. So what do we mean by go deeper, not wider? Well, usually what we mean is turn your attention towards your characters and their internal conflicts and their emotional conflicts, rather than throwing more and more plot events at them. So in novel writing, we talk about internal and external conflict. Internal conflict is the things that your characters are struggling with emotionally, and external conflict are the things that you throw at them from the outside. And what I see so commonly in manuscripts is, as soon as an author feels like they're slightly running out of steam, or when they have that moment where they look at the idea of writing 90,000 words and just panic because it's a lot of words, what they do is they throw plot at it. So you've got secrets being revealed, buildings catching fire, people being run over, people being rushed to hospital. All of this stuff is going on, and your main character is just sort of bobbling along through all that without ever really changing or growing emotionally as a result of it. So when you're struggling to kind of find the focus of your book, to find the heart of your book, look to your characters first and go deeper into your character. And the question you want to ask yourself is, what is driving this character? What is the thing that they need to overcome to get from where they are now to their happy ever after? Or what is the way in which they're going to be changed from the beginning of the story to the end of the story? And then if you can answer that question, use that to guide your narrative, rather than thinking, oh, what else could happen? Think about your character's internal conflict and their emotional conflict and think, How would someone who's struggling with that emotion behave in this situation? What would they do? And then let what your character does drive the story forward. Go deeper, not wider. My absolute number one most common piece of craft advice that I give. There is more to being a writer and to making a career as a writer than just writing, unfortunately. So my second piece of advice is more focused on the publishing side of things. When you get to that point where you've got a complete manuscript and you're working out what to do with it, are you going to send it to agents? Are you going to send it to publishers who take direct submissions? Are you going to publish it yourself? And this is a piece of advice that was given to me by Julie Cohen, who is another brilliant author and astonishing writing mentor and tutor. And what she advises is that you should work out what your dream is and follow that, which sounds really obvious. Obviously, you should follow your own dream and not someone else's. But when you get to that point where you feel like you're writing at a kind of publishable standard, there is so much advice out there. There will be people who go, oh, well, you must have an agent. You have to have an agent. You can't get anywhere in this industry without an agent. There will be people who go, well, agents are just gatekeepers. It's much better to go straight to a publisher. If you go to a digital first publisher, they get your book out much quicker. Obviously, you should do that. There'll be people who say, well, I self-published and I'm in charge and I get to control everything and I don't have to deal with a publisher or an agent telling me what to do. Why would you jump through all of those hoops? Why wouldn't you just do it yourself? And all of those people are right. And all of those people are stupid because they are right for them. They may not be right for you. So work out what your dream is. If your dream is Hollywood movie, theme park, book in every bookshop in every English-speaking country and some non-English-speaking countries right across the world, translations in hundreds of languages, all of that stuff, then realistically, probably looking for an agent and then aiming for a big house publisher via an agent is still your best chance at getting that. If you want your book out in the world more quickly, if you just want it out there, if you want people to be able to buy it in ebook and get to it, and you want to be published and you want to start developing an income stream from your writing, then maybe a digital first publisher. You can go to direct might be the way. If you like to be in control of your own work, if you have an aptitude for the kind of business side of things, maybe your past career has involved sales, marketing, promotion, those sorts of things, then why not self-publish? Any or all of these could be good options. It might not be the same for every book either. Many authors are hybrid and do a combination of all three of those things. But the question is, what do you want? And if you can answer that question, then you can start to make decisions about where you're going to submit your work, if you're going to submit your work, and how you're going to pursue your individual dream. Sticking with the career side of things, this is a fabulous phrase that was first said to me by Erin Green, another brilliant author. And this is when you're further down the line, when you're already published, when you're working out what to write next. And what Erin always says, and we've said it to each other quite often now, is you have to drive your own bus. Drive your own bus. What we mean by that is that you have to control the things that you can control. And what you can control 9 times out of 10, if you're traditionally published, is the writing. It's the actual words on the page. And you will find yourselves, if you're traditionally published, time and again, waiting on a new contract or waiting on a publisher who has had 2 books in a series and is umming and ahhing about number 3, or maybe they want number 3 but they think they might want something else first and they're not really sure, and there are going to be meetings about it and discussions about it, and these things will take weeks, if not months. All you can control is what you write. that. So this has been a really big learning curve for me, and it's taken me probably 10 years of being a published author before I've really got to that point where I've started to learn to cut out all of the noise, all of the, well, this editor might be interested in this, or this publisher might go into recontract from that, but we're not really sure yet. And this publisher isn't going to decide until after the last book on the contract is out. And there might be an opportunity to write X for this person, but again, it's just kind of screen all that out and go, okay, what I can control is what I write, and the fact that I am writing. So it's taken me, a lot of this time to learn not to wait for publishers, not to wait for those decisions to be made. If there's something I really, really want to write, I will now write it, pretty much regardless of whether the contract is definitely coming or not. If there's something I don't really want to write, but I'm happy to write if it's contracted, then I will wait until there's a contract. But during that waiting time, I will damn well be writing something else. I will be driving my own bus. I will be controlling the things that I can control, because publishing will buffet you and things change and things look really positive and then it turns out to be a no, or things look like it's going to be a no and then the editor goes, actually, we really want to stick with this, and you can't control any of that. You got to drive your own bus. So those are my 3 pieces of wisdom from other authors, Sue Moorcroft, Julie Cohen and Erin Green. I now have 2 things that I myself shout repeatedly at writers. And the first one is probably become kind of my defining phrase, slightly worryingly. I know it's something that people say to me, oh, I was procrastinating horribly last week and I could hear your voice in my head. And what I will have been saying in that person's head is just write the insert expletive of your choice here, book. Just write the book. Just write the ing book. Because there is no substitute for that. As writers, we end up having to think about a lot of other things: social media, promotion, physical events, edits, copy edits, proofreads, approving covers, all of that different stuff. And all of that is part of being a writer. None of it is a substitute for actual writing. And I see this so often, particularly with unpublished authors. When I do unpublished author events, time and time again, the vast majority of the questions are about things like social media profiles. Do I need a website? Do I need to be on TikTok? And all of those are perfectly valid questions and perfectly valid things to be worrying about. None of them will take the place of having written the best book that you can. Your job, ultimately, before anything else, is to write the ing book. So just write the ing book. And finally, this is the final line of the writing gospel according to Alison, and I think this is the single most valuable piece of writing advice I ever give, to the point that it sort of stopped being advice that I give, and I now just put it on my cost promotional material and things, so it's there up front. You don't even have to wait for me to tell you, and it's simply this: there is no one correct way to write a book. There is no one right way to write a book. There are no rules. You can write about anything if you make it work. You can write in as many points of view as you like if you make it work. You can write in first person, you can write in present tense, you can have a prologue, you can not have a prologue. You can plan your book before you start writing. You can just sit down one day and start writing and hope for the best. All of these things will work some of the time. All of them will fail abysmally some of the time. And you don't have to write your book the same way as anybody else. You don't even have to write your book the same way as you wrote your previous book. Pretty much every writer's individual process looks completely bonkers when you view it from the outside. I posted something on my social media a couple of days ago about how I was getting close to the 20,000 word point in the manuscript I'm writing at the moment, and thought I was very close to ditching the whole lot and starting again. And the responses to that were really funny, because an awful lot of people were just slightly horrified by that notion. But that's really common for me. I quite often have a bit of a false start again, sometimes 3 times. But any of you who watched my book 2 video a few weeks ago, which I will link down below, in that video I think I talk about the fact that I ditched 50,000 words, give or take, of that manuscript and started again. That's just part of my process. I write my way in, and sometimes I write my way in the wrong direction and have to tag back and restart, and that's fine. But to most other writers that sounds bonkers. Some writers can't start anything until they have a really detailed plan of where they're going. To me, once I've written a really detailed plan of where I'm going, I have no interest at all in writing the book, because I know everything. What is there to find out? What creative joy is there in that? But other writers would find the idea of just sitting down with a blank page and starting to write absolutely terrifying. And it isn't necessarily the same for every book in a career. Your writing style and process will evolve and develop as you write more, so let it. But don't feel like you have to write like anybody else, and don't waste time looking for the magic formula to the perfect process to write a novel, because there isn't one. And even if there was one, everybody's would be different, so you just would have to find your own. So don't waste time looking for the perfect way to write the book, and just crack on and write the book. Here endeth the lesson. Those are my absolute top favourite bits of writing advice. I might do another one of these in a few weeks' time about my worst bits of writing advice. If you have any writing advice you absolutely hate or absolutely love, please do post it in the comments below. It would be lovely to hear from you. And I will be back next Friday with another video about all things writing and publishing related. So long.